The fabric of my dress shifted uncomfortably as I adjusted. Then came the sound of the door and someone else's footsteps behind it. He was sitting right beside me, close enough that I could hear his breath. The quiet felt different, more deliberate, more loaded. He met my eyes and said softly, "It's okay." So I stayed still, listening to what came next. His hands were already at my waist, fingers brushing fabric like he wasn't ready to let go. I laughed, soft, breathless, carried by the wine, still warm in my chest. He hadn't said anything. He didn't need to. He was just watching me the way he always did when no one else was looking. Like I was the only thing that mattered. I was curled up in his lap, knees tucked beside him on the couch, my mouth grazing the curve of his neck as my fingers played with the top button of his shirt. The lights were low, the room still humming faintly with the music from dinner, but we hadn't made it 10 steps inside before he pulled me into his lap. "You," I whispered, dragging my lips along his jawline, "have been patient all night." He didn't respond. Not out loud. His hands moved slowly along my back, steady and unhurried, while I shifted forward, matching the rise and fall of his breath without a word. I could feel the heat beneath his shirt, the rise of his chest against mine, the way his grip steadied me like he wanted the moment to stay. The space between us tightened, his lips hovering near mine, his eyes darker now than they'd been all night. I moved again, just slightly, already leaning into the silence between our breaths. But then he stilled me, one hand on my hip, firm, quiet. I paused, blinking down at him as something in the air shifted. Sharp, electric, not fear, but something close. Something that made my stomach flutter. He leaned up close enough that I felt his voice before I heard it. "There's someone I want you to meet." I didn't get the chance to ask. There was a sound behind me, the soft click of the doorknob turning. No knock, just movement, intentional. Then the quiet press of the door swinging open and footsteps, confident, unhurried, inside. I didn't move, couldn't. His hand stayed on my hip, my mouth still hovered just above his, but my gaze lifted, slow and searching, as the air shifted as someone else stepped into the room. And I knew. This wasn't a whim. It had been arranged, deliberately, beautifully. And whatever it was only just beginning. I didn't turn. I didn't need to. I felt him behind me. The shift in the air, the weight of a presence that didn't wait for permission, not polite, not hesitant, just certain, like he already knew what he was walking into and exactly what part of it was meant for him. My husband's hand stayed on my hip, warm and steady. He didn't say a word, didn't tense. And somehow that said more than anything he could have spoken. My husband stepped aside slightly, letting the guest guide me back onto the couch. He helped me settle back onto the couch with a quiet kind of care. My husband remained close, kneeling beside me. His fingers circled my ankle, slow, steady, then paused. Their presence felt layered, one familiar, one new, but both attentive, one grounding and known, the other curious and deliberate. His breath lingered as he leaned forward, close but unhurried. My hand reached blindly, seeking and found my husband's wrist. I pulled him toward me, fingers lacing with his, anchoring myself with him even as I stayed fully present with what was unfolding. There was no going back now. The guest was leaning over me, close but unhurried. My husband's hand was still in mine. Their presence surrounded me. Each gesture sparked something warm beneath my skin. Time felt slower, like everything around me had softened. I didn't feel nervous. I felt held. His hands rested gently, and I found myself relaxing into the moment. My husband leaned closer, his voice steady against my ear, almost a murmur. His voice steadied me, and I let myself breathe. He leaned in closer, his breath warming my skin with every inch. From my side to the space just below my collarbone, he moved with quiet focus, like he wasn't discovering something new, but returning to something already known. My breath caught as I reached back, grounding myself against the couch. Near my shoulder, my husband's hand brushed across my skin, his thumb tracing soft circles, a silent reminder. "You're here. You're safe. Stay with this." When his lips reached just beneath my collarbone, a sound stirred in my throat, thin and rising. His hand steadied me, calm and deliberate, while everything inside leaned forward. I stopped thinking. I just followed the pull. He lifted me gently, palms beneath me, as the fabric gathered and slipped away beside us. The cooler air met my skin, and a soft gasp escaped, sharp, reflexive, involuntary. I felt exposed, held in focus beneath both their gazes. My husband's eyes moved across me like he was seeing something private again. He didn't speak. Just let his hand drift from my ankle to the bend of my knee, slow and grounding, as the other man leaned in, closer, steadier. My body responded before I could name what was happening, tight with anticipation, fully present in the tension. He paused near my hip, breath steady, hands framing the space around me like he already belonged there. A sound escaped me, barely formed, as my body moved again, rhythm matching breath. My husband leaned in, fingers lacing through mine. "Don't look away," he said low and close. I didn't. Not when the guest's head rose. Not when he guided one leg aside, his grip secure. Not when my body tilted toward him like it had already decided. Then something shifted. His presence moved over mine, anchored and sure. One hand braced near my shoulder, the other moving along my waist. I felt the stillness settle in. When I finally turned my head, the man who had entered was already watching me. He stepped inside like he belonged, tall, dressed in black, his arms relaxed at his sides, but his gaze was locked on mine like we'd skipped introductions and gone straight to remembering. I stayed exactly where I was, still in his lap, the fabric of my dress creased from where I'd shifted earlier, the air between us thick with something new. His fingers moved gently at my spine, tracing the curve of my back, not pushing me away. Just keeping me there. The other man approached, not quickly, not cautiously, just with purpose. His eyes drifted over me, slow, unhurried, then dropped to where my husband's hand rested possessively against my spine. I should have looked away, but I didn't. I couldn't. He didn't speak. Just lifted one hand and gently brushed my hair over my shoulder, bearing the side of my neck. A ripple of heat spilled down my spine, then he leaned in. His mouth met the base of my neck, warm, steady, unshaken by urgency. He kissed deliberately, like he was memorizing the warmth of my skin. A shiver passed through me. I held my breath for a second, then leaned slightly closer, and my husband's voice followed, low, steady, certain. "He knows what you like." That sentence hit harder than any touch. I didn't ask, didn't retreat. The guest kissed my shoulder, his pace unflinching. The space around us thickened, like the room itself was holding its breath. My hand settled against my husband's chest, my hips still settled in his lap, but something in the room had already shifted. When the guest reached my mouth, he didn't move too fast. He stopped, just inches away. Waiting. I leaned in and met him there. The first kiss was soft, searching, but quickly deepened, fuller, hungrier. Our mouths moved together, slow and certain, and still, he didn't stop us. He watched, and I let him. I couldn't tell whose heartbeat I felt first, mine, the man holding me, or the one pulling me in, but all of them were moving faster now. When we finally broke apart, the guest didn't retreat. He looked at my husband, then back at me. He didn't need to speak, and I didn't need to ask. Whatever this was, it wasn't a question. It was already happening. The moment still lingered between us when I noticed them shift. My husband's hand slid up my sides, firm and sure, guiding me to rise from his lap. I rose slowly, still feeling the warmth of his hands as my knees steadied, my pulse racing. The other man stepped closer, his presence quietly filling the room. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His fingers brushed my shoulder, steady and focused. My husband stood just behind me now, one hand resting low on my back, grounding me in place. The fabric shifted slightly as I adjusted, brushing softly against my side. He kissed my shoulder and paused, his breath warming my skin. Each gesture sparked something warm beneath my skin, and I found myself leaning subtly toward the feeling. Like a weight waiting to drop. The room held that breath with us. I shifted, adjusting with him, like our movements were part of something already set in motion. A breath escaped, sharp, open, as my husband leaned in to meet it. Each movement stayed slow, careful, aligned. Like we were listening to something deeper than words. My husband's lips brushed my jaw, his hands steady at my side. Their touch surrounded me, soft but inescapable. I turned toward one, reached toward the other. I didn't know whose name was rising in my mouth. I only knew I couldn't pull away now. Then the guest moved me, lifted, turned, eased me gently onto my side. One arm steadied my back, one leg shifted aside with care. My husband's chest met mine from behind. I was enclosed, steady, centered, attuned. My husband's hand drifted down my leg as the guest leaned forward again. Focus now, but patient. My breath caught and turned sharp, rising before I could name it. Warm breath found my ear. "Don't hold back," he whispered. I didn't. I followed. And then the rhythm changed. It wasn't still anymore. It built, faster, certain. My arms held tight, one wrapped around my husband's wrist, the other clutching the guest's shoulder. My legs tightened. My mouth opened but gave no words. Just air. Just sensation. My back rose slightly, then settled again. Everything inside felt like it was leaning forward. My vision blurred softly at the edges. My breath stuttered. And when the moment peaked, something inside released. A sound slipped. ChatGPT said. Out, raw, real, without shape. My chest lifted, held, then dropped. My limbs shifted, then stilled. My breath slowed into silence. I sank there, completely, without resistance, and stayed in that quiet, open space. Be honest. Do you wish you were there too? If you were, what would you be doing? Tell me in the comments. I'll be reading. And if you haven't already, like, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Thanks for watching.